Welcome to Bar Down Hockey. I'm Josh Stockless here with Liesl Babica and Ethan Schmidt, and we're heading towards the end of the season, heading towards the end of the semester, but we're still here talking hockey with you.
How are you doing, Josh?
I'm good, Liesl. How are you?
Pretty good. A little trafficy out in Phoenix this weekend because Final Four and the National Championship here are here for the NCAA college basketball, so, that's always nice.
It's an exciting time down here. I know the college basketball is wrapping up, but yeah, we are jumping into playoff hockey. It's the most exciting time of year in sports, and should be a really awesome playoffs. I think some new teams, some good matchups that are shaping up. So
Absolutely, and we'll take a deeper dive into that a little bit later in the show, but let's start off with our offensive leaders and our goaltending leaders around the NHL. And again, much like last week, we see Connor McDavid's name at the top of the points and assists leaderboard. And
he's just killing the game. Like we said last week, and we've been saying, I think he is definitely on the way of what Sidney Crosby has done, Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, all the greats. So I think he is off to a great start in his young career.
Absolutely, yeah. He has 94 points on the year, and 65 of them are helpers. So, it shows that, he can score, but he's also really good at setting up his teammates, and he understands how hockey works. He has a pretty good hockey IQ, and that's what his high assist total has shown us.
Well, it's really key to have, 65 assists, because, quite frankly, if you're not a team player, your team isn't going to be successful. If you're selfish for yourself, you're not going to be successful as a player and for the team.
Absolutely.
Do you think that kind of happens with Ovechkin when he leads the league in goals often and then they don't get close to winning the cup? Do you think him always trying to score creates an issue?
That's a good point. I've never really thought about that, but now that you bring that up, there's a good possibility of it. But then...
Well, just you saying that made me think that he scores so many goals and not as many assists as, McDavid's doing the opposite, and they're going to go to the playoffs for the first time in a while. So I didn't know if there was any correlation, maybe.
No, that's a really good point. I don't know if that would be for the same this year because Sidney Crosby is leading in 43 goals in the NHL. So, he's not in the assist list. But, he's, still setting up. So we'll see. I don't know. That's a good point.
And, like you said, Sidney Crosby's leading with 43 goals. But Ovechkin, just looking at the leaderboards for points, assists, goals, plus, minus, nowhere to be found, really. The only capital that's on there is TJ Oshie, just taking a cursory look at the list. He has a plus 27 on the season. And then Brooks Orpik with a plus 32. But... there aren't too many capitals on the list, so it'll be interesting to see how they fare in the playoffs.
Well, maybe they could finally win since it's evenly spread out this year and not Ovechkin scoring all the goals.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see for the playoffs. But just taking a quick look at the goaltending leaders, again, Brandon Holtby still leads in shutouts with 8, but Sergei Bobrovsky of the Columbus Blue Jackets, I think I got the name, he's in the top 2 in every single category in the league for goaltending. He's first for goals allowed, first for wins, first for save percentage, and second for shutouts.
I think without Bobrovsky, the Columbus Blue Jackets wouldn't be where they are this season. Just a dominance in the crease this year. There's no doubt he's been one of the top goaltenders. 41 wins for your team, that's insane. And you're keeping out less than 2 goals a game. That's outstanding. And the Blue Jackets are set at goaltending in the playoffs, no doubt about that.
Absolutely, and the Blue Jackets have been giving Bobrovsky a little bit of a rest recently, now that they've clinched a playoff spot officially, and they pretty much know they're going to be in the top 2 or 3 in their division. They've just kind of laid back a little bit and given Bobrovsky some time off. But one thing to look at is Brandon Holtby from the Capitals. If Bobrovsky wasn't having this stellar season, Holtby would be leading in 3 categories: shutouts, wins, and goals allowed.
I mean, I really think it really comes down to, Ethan's Ovechkin and being a team player. I mean, you can have a good goalie, but if you can't, be a good defense either, or have good defensemen as a whole for the team, I think they will be unsuccessful. So hopefully he keeps up, he has the 8 shutouts. And that's fantastic for anybody, so.
Well, I think the Capitals have an experienced defensive core. Not to say that it's like one of the best in the league, but they definitely get the job done. And when you look at the Blue Jackets, it's a young, explosive, fiery team altogether. And Bobrovsky's just having a heck of a year, showing off his athleticism as a goaltender and putting up stellar numbers. So.
And we'll go a little bit more into the playoffs later into the show, but first we'll hit you with a Coyotes update. And Ethan, are they still garbage?
Yeah, garbage. No, the Coyotes. The Coyotes. I mean, we've known for a while this season is just they're gonna need to try something else next year for sure, and hope to get some good draft picks. They actually beat the Washington Capitals though on Friday.
Yeah, they
night.
won 6-3. But the thing is I think that when teams like the Capitals or the Penguins or the Rangers even per se, when they come into town, they're not there to play, quite frankly, and the Coyotes are there to play, and so they win against those teams.
And one thing that just to note about the Coyotes, so the Coyotes are, by every stretch of the imagination, having a bad season. They have 65 points on the year. That's not a good season. But the team below them, the Colorado Avalanche, have 45 points on the season.
Jeez.
Right now, their record is 21-53-3. That's just
terrible.
bad. I mean, we can talk about how bad the Coyotes are, but the Avalanche are just miles worse.
What are
They're
they doing?
yeah. I mean, so the Coyotes at that point have to be pretty grateful that they are in that position. But hopefully they will get a good pick. On a more positive note for the Coyotes, I don't know if either of you guys know, being attending a lot of games. Lou Monaco, who was a guy who took tickets and parking and such, he retired this weekend. My dad and I actually had the chance to talk to him very briefly. I think it was when they played the Kings and we saw Drew Doughty walking across. And he was just like, oh, yeah, sure, go ahead. He's a really friendly guy. He's from Long Island, New York. He's 90 years old. And he was honored for the Arizona Coyotes. They put him in the official team picture for this year, and so I think that's a great, positive note, even though all the negative with what their team is going on, to have, someone that he is able to do that for them. And he served in the Navy during World War II, so
That's crazy.
Wow,
that kind of puts you in perspective how much he's seen.
He worked with the Coyotes their whole time being a franchise? So.
Let's see. I think I don't think he was there for like a long time. Yeah,
Okay.
but he was there for a good chunk of it. But
he's just been like a face, local face for them.
Yeah, he when we came, he would stand and he would do parking, and he would be pretty friendly, and it was always funny because I would turn to my dad and said, he has a thick New York accent for sure, and it said on his little name tag that he's from Long Island. So I think that's pretty awesome that they can have someone like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Obviously, thank him for his service. But let's go north of the border now. Let's talk about Austin Matthews for a minute. Right now, he has, I believe, 38 goals. But earlier in the week, he scored his 35th goal. And that 35th goal breaks the Toronto rookie record held by Wendell Clark. And, guys, Austin Matthews is just having an outstanding rookie season.
I'm proud of the kid, man.
Is there any question that he's the rookie of the year?
No, I don't think there's... I mean, who else would be considered
him
for
or
it?
Patrick Lane, but I think Austin Matthews definitely... I mean, breaking the Toronto franchise rookie record for goals, I think it's a really big deal, and he's probably snagged it from Patrick Lane at this point.
And I mean, Patrick Lane has not had a bad season. He has 34 goals, but Matthews is just 38 goals, just so
Yeah,
much better.
And the Leafs are most likely going to the playoffs, so.
While the Jets are not, so there you go.
Puts everything in perspective for you.
Yeah, I mean, he has 28 assists on the season, 66 points. Again, a very, very nice season for a rookie. I mean, nothing to sneeze at.
Well, moving forward, we kind of had a scare last night for the Philadelphia Flyers and any fans across the board for the NHL. Mikhail Nuvarith for the Philadelphia Flyers, goaltender, dropped in the game last night. You can see it if you watch the video. He just kind of falls down, and they had to stretch him off the ice. He, I believe, is just released from the hospital today, as opening news this morning. So our prayers and hopes are with him right now, and hopefully he gets that all worked out, and hopefully nothing serious.
Yeah, I don't know if they've released what happened to him at this point. I'm assuming it was just probably dehydration or something like that. But yeah, I mean, you never want to see somebody collapse. You never want to see that happen. I mean, hockey is a physical sport. But it looked like, even just looking at the video now, even after he collapsed, he was still awake. He's still okay, and it's not like it was. I mean, obviously it's serious, but like it's not. It doesn't look like he was hurt. And obviously he was released from the hospital, so he's okay.
That's what's more important.
Yeah, and then
on a even more positive note for being released from the hospital, Craig Cunningham, back in, I believe, the beginning of the season for the Tucson Roadrunners, which is a minor league team here in Arizona, he collapsed. He had, I believe, it was something that had to do with his heart.
Well, I mean, it's good to see.
But he's back. He's the first time on the ice last night. So I think that's pretty exciting for him. There was a little video of him skating around and some other people helping for him. He had part of his leg amputated, if you didn't know that as well.
Jeez.
So, I mean, like, at least he's back out on the ice, and that's what's more important.
Absolutely. And I guess what's even more important, I guess what you meant to, Lisa, is that he's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, moving back to the NHL, taking a look at the playoffs. So we have a lot of teams that have already clinched. I mean, last week we talked about the Eastern Conference with Washington, Columbus, and Pittsburgh clinch. This week, Montreal officially clinched. I know Chicago clinched last week. We talked about, I think Minnesota and St. Louis have clinched playoff spots. Edmonton, Anaheim, and San Jose have all officially clinched playoff spots. Calgary clinched the playoff spot, but Ethan, I think there might just be one more playoff spot in the West. Do you happen to know who's in line to clinch that spot?
Yeah, one more spot, and Nashville, if they win today, they could be clinching. They got to play a tough St. Louis team. St. Louis is in that third spot in the Central Division, and Nashville's got that tough game against them. If they beat St. Louis, the Preds can jump into that third spot in the Central Division, and they would no longer have to play Chicago. They would be playing Minnesota. So I think that would be better for them, definitely going to the playoffs, because Chicago is just going to be a brutal force to reckon with. Yeah. I don't think the Preds want to take them on as an 8th seed, but if the Preds can get in there and play Minnesota, they have a solid chance this postseason, and St. Louis will drop and play Chicago most likely.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the interesting thing to look at is looking at the Central. I mean, the first two spots seem to be pretty much locked up. Chicago has 107 points. Minnesota has 98. And I mean, with like 3 or 4 games remaining, Nashville and St. Louis aren't going to catch those two teams. But looking at the Pacific Division, it's really up for grabs. Edmonton and Anaheim. I mean, technically Edmonton's first, but they both have 97 points, and then San Jose isn't too far behind. They have 93.
I think it could go either way. I mean, it's not as do or die situation as maybe the Metropolitan Division, where you need a certain spot. But I mean, it is important to those teams depending where they fall, because that's definitely depends who they play.
Well, what I noticed is San Jose has really fallen off. I mean, they were leading the division at one point this season, and now they're in the third in the Pacific. But I mean, Edmonton and Anaheim are battling back and forth. They're tied right now at 97 points apiece. And then even Calgary's at 92, and they've had their hot stretches, 6-4 in their last 10 games. I mean, even they could jump in front of San Jose. They're only behind them by 1 point, and San Jose could be in the wild card spot. So,
well, quite frankly, I think it's really exciting to see the Ducks finally in the playoffs. I mean, I don't know when the last time they were. I mean, they've always been
the Ducks.
Yeah, they've been
the Ducks
okay.
have been consistent lately.
They've been okay for the last 2-3 seasons. But I mean, previously towards that, they were not doing so hot. So I think it's nice that they're finally climbing up the ladder, and maybe in the future, a couple years, they'll see a Stanley Cup run.
Yeah, I think they actually won their division last year. But I mean, I get what you're saying, Lisa. I mean, they haven't really made too much noise in the playoffs. Like, they've gotten there, and then they've just kind of quietly exited in the first round. So,
Predators beat them last season.
Yeah, I mean, you have that brings up the age-old fan question. Would you rather your team miss the playoffs and make it close, maybe have a good season, have a positive ending, or you want your team to kind of just make the playoffs, but then first round exit? I mean, yeah, you made the playoffs, but you're losing after the first round. You're really not doing anything there.
You gotta do something.
I mean, I guess in the long run, I guess it helps for them in the long run if they're wanting to push for a Stanley Cup to see, okay, what can we fix from last year's issues in the first round? Maybe this year they go farther than the first round, and then that's a bigger step for them. And even if they lose in the second round, then they're further than they were the year before and previously.
Well, they got rid of their coach, and they got a new coach, and they're headed to the playoffs again this season. So a big issue. It was Bruce Boudreau, right? Last season was the Ducks coach, and everybody put him under fire because he had such a terrible playoff record. He had such a terrible playoff record with Anaheim, and he got put under the fire. They sent him packing, but now Randy Carlyle's taken the team, and they could easily clinch the Pacific Division. And it's time for the Ducks to really step up in the playoffs. It's a team that's really struggled since the Cup back in the 2000s with Teemu Selanne. Otherwise, they seem to struggle to make noise in the playoffs, even though they get to that first round more often than not.
And one thing to take a look at, Bruce Boudreau, you said he was fired by the Ducks last season. He was. He's actually coaching the Minnesota Wild this season, and as we all know, the Minnesota Wild have had an incredible season this year, but I wonder if he'll have the same lack of success in the playoffs this year with the Wild that he had with the Ducks.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's up to the players to have a mentality that we're going to win this series. I mean, Boudreau can only do so much, but he just has to make those right decisions when it's time to make a coaching decision.
And looking at Boudreau, I mean, since he started coaching in 07-08 in the NHL, he has only finished first, outside of first or second in his division once, and that was 2011-2012 with the Ducks. So first and second every year with the Capitals, then fifth and then first with every year with the Ducks, and now he's second in the Central with the Minnesota Wild. So again, I'm sure a lot of people around hockey know Boudreau, but he's had a tremendous coaching career. He just hasn't been able to do anything in the playoffs.
Which I think is unfortunate because it brings it back to the Alex Ovechkin thing where, coaches want rings and cups too. They want it equally as bad as players, and I think that's always frustrating to fall short as well. Even though he's not physically out there on the ice, he is stepping, he's on the other side of things, but still it's kind of the same concept.
And I mean, I guess moving back to the Pacific Division real quick, because I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about this. The Edmonton Oilers clinched the playoff spot. They've been on fire recently. They are 9-1-0 in their last 10. That's just incredible, and that's exactly what you want to see from your team heading into the playoffs. You want them to be on fire, you want them to be on a hot streak, and you want them to be playing well, and that's exactly what the Oilers are doing.
Definitely.
With only 4 games left in their season.
I I'm telling you, I think the Oilers will really pick it up, and I think they could go far and give people a run for their money.
And my old roommate, Austin, in the beginning of the year, he was telling me that his teams, Virginia Tech, the Atlanta Falcons, and we're going to make the playoffs for football. And I'm like, all right, we'll see. And he also said, you know what, I'm going to be an Edmonton Oilers fan. They're going to make the playoffs. And I'm like, yeah, okay, they're going to make the playoffs. And here they are at the top of their division with 4 games left in the season, riding a 9-1-0 streak into the playoffs. So,
shout out to Austin.
I would agree with you, Josh. I don't think a lot of people saw this coming from them at all. So.
Well, they finally got their rebuilding junk out of the way, man. It's been a long time coming for that franchise, and they're gonna make it happen.
Well,
this
hopefully
season.
they remain consistent throughout the next few years, not just this is a one-time deal and then they go back to sucking for the next
well, they got
5
somebody
years,
like McDavid.
Yeah, exactly.
I would like to think it's not gonna happen. I would hope for them, just because they've had so much struggles through the past decade.
No, I agree.
And so I guess with about 10 minutes left in the show, let's shift our attention from the Western playoffs to the East bracket. And again, we have Washington, Columbus, Pittsburgh, the Rangers, and Montreal. They've all clinched. The teams that haven't clinched yet that seem to be in position to clinch are the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators. So it looks like we're going to have a lot of teams from Canada in this year's playoffs. I think we said 5 out of 6. I think it's 5 out of 6 because the only teams that aren't... Oh, I'm sorry, 5 out of 7.
5
5
out
of
of
7,
7.
Winnipeg
5 out of
and
7.
Vancouver.
Winnipeg and Vancouver.
Well, Josh, can you tell us about the Islanders this week? I mean, that was kind of a nightmare breakdown, wasn't it?
I mean, obviously you should be following the Bar Down Hockey Twitter, but if you're following me on Twitter, you saw that I tweeted that the Islanders just decided that they don't want to be in the playoffs. And, that was a decision that I guess they made as a team. I don't know if there was a meeting about it or if any press was involved. I'm guessing not because I probably would have heard about it. But yeah, they decided not to play in the playoffs this year. They beat the Devils 2-1, but they lost to the Flyers 5-3. I mean, I looked at the box score of that game because I was in class, and what happened was there were 8 shots on Thomas Greiss in the first period, and I think he let 3 or 4 of them in, and then they put in Halak, and Halak let in I think 1 or 2 goals for the rest of the game on I think 20 shots or something like that. So Thomas Greiss just didn't have it that day, and the Islanders were only able to score 3 goals, and they lost 5-3.
Thomas Greiss. No, I'm just playing.
Well, I mean, so can you tell us about Tavares? How is he doing?
Yeah,
Because I know he got hurt, right?
Tavares is out. He's hurt. Again, I had a tweet about that yesterday. Woke up, found out that he was week to week, so basically out for the season, because the Islanders aren't making the playoffs without Tavares. Anyway, so Tavares is week to week, and...
Well, I'm sorry, Josh, that your team took crap on you. I mean, no one ever wants that. No one, not a fan. When you're a fan, you don't want that to happen to your team.
You're a Penguins fan. They're good every year.
There was a long period when they were not good.
Don't talk to me about long periods where your team isn't good. I don't want to hear it, Liesl.
No, it's kind of comical because I think we were talking about this the other day because when I was in Denver and there was a little kid there and he must have been 5 or so. And I was like, oh, who's your favorite player? And he's like, Sidney Crosby. And I'm like, this kid has no idea what Sidney Crosby has put out. I mean, he hasn't even been around for half of Crosby's career in the NHL. And it was just really comical to me to see that. But yeah, well, they aren't doing too hot right now. It's a little stressful, I think. Were they to play Columbus in the first round of playoffs start today? Yes, they are. So that kind of gives me the little EBGBs, to be honest with you. Because I do think that Columbus is a good team. I don't know how far they'll go, but I think they will give the Penguins a run for their money if that is so.
Well, one thing to keep in mind, Liesl, is you guys have a game on the Rangers. The Rangers have played 98 games. You guys have played 98 games. You guys have played 77 games, and the Rangers have played 78 games. So the most the Rangers can get is 8 more points, which is actually enough to pass you guys for the 3rd spot.
But
in
it
the
would have to
division.
be a collapse from Pittsburgh.
But again, yeah, you guys haven't been great over the
This
past
season.
10, 4, 3, and 3, but you guys are still picking up points. 11 points over your last 10 games, which isn't great, but it's
It's still important to pick up a point,
If
even
it-
if it is in overtime.
yeah,
If they get one more win, then they'll be safe from the Rangers.
absolutely. One more win would pretty much clinch them the third spot, at least in the division. If not even the second, as they could leapfrog Columbus.
They could.
Columbus is only a point ahead of
Sure.
them. Columbus is 6-2-2 in their last 10.
I think it's huge whoever gets that home ice advantage between Columbus and Pittsburgh.
I 110% agree with you, Ethan.
Absolutely, but Boston. I mean, they've been on a run over the past month. They're 6-4-0 in their last 10, and I mean, about a month ago we were talking about the Islanders in the second wild card spot, maybe Tampa
Lightning.
Bay.
No.
But Boston has really come out of nowhere, and now they have 90 points, and it looks like they might just wrap up this second wild card spot. They're 4 points ahead of the Lightning, and they're 6 points ahead of the Islanders, who really aren't doing anything, and again decided just not to make the playoffs this year, which is fine. I just would have liked a little bit more of a notice.
I think the Bruins could really be a big threat to the Capitals. Shake them around a little bit, you know. What I'm
I
saying?
definitely agree. I think they could go 7 games.
Rough them up. I
Yeah.
think the Bruins are that kind of team as an 8th seed coming in.
Absolutely, and it's always dangerous as number 1 seed, especially when you're facing like a hot team that's really made a run over the past month, like the Bruins. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Washington should panic too much or anything, but Boston's gonna come in firing on all cylinders, and it's gonna be a tough matchup. The Caps just have to be ready. I mean, they've struggled with it in the past few playoffs where it's like, hey, this team's like not gonna do much, and then they let this series get away from them, and they end up playing 6-7 games, and then going into the second round, they're all
tired.
yeah.
And I
So-
mean, if that actually, even if that does happen for the Capitals, they're going to be playing Columbus or Pittsburgh in the second round.
Which is
And it's hard to see the Columbus and Pittsburgh series, if that series does hold up, which it looks like it will, going less than 7 games. I mean,
It
just being,
is.
just
It's
being
tough.
completely honest. Like,
I think it'll go 7 games.
I think if it doesn't go 7 games, it's gonna be like
6.
Pittsburgh winning a bunch of games. Like Pittsburgh's just gonna flat out win, but like 4-1 or 4-2. But if Columbus comes and competes, it's definitely gonna go 7. I think. That's
yeah,
for
I
sure.
don't really see any reason why they won't, especially with Bobrovsky playing the way he does.
Yeah,
Even if the Blue Jackets don't play the way they've been playing in the regular
They have
season,
the
maybe
hot
some playoff
goaltender.
nerves. Yeah, they have the hot goaltender, and that's never something to.
But what it comes
Look over.
down to, he needs to be tested in playoff atmosphere.
He does.
I think he can. I think Bobrovsky's a player that could step up. It's just all his experience and having such a good year finally. I think it's time for him to show what he's made of, and he'll probably get.
I hope he does, but quite frankly, I think it's a toss up of whatever it is, because everyone crapped on Fleury for years that he was just a horrible playoff goalie, and quite frankly, if you're not good in the playoffs, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't. Just ask Henrik Lundqvist. But I guess speaking of the playoffs, so next week, the NHL season is going to wrap up this week. Next week, we're going to have our playoff brackets for you. We'll put them on our Twitter account as we're running out of time here. But yeah, it should be an exciting last week of hockey. We'll update you. We'll give you our playoff predictions. We'll have our entire bracket. Like I said, our entire bracket's filled out.
Just follow the Twitter.
Yeah, just follow the Twitter.
EDH_show.
Absolutely, and you can also follow me on Twitter for more tweets about how the Islanders aren't going to make the playoffs at Josh Sackles.
I'll tweet about how the Preds are making the playoffs, and we have 2 30-goal scorers this season.
You can give them your Twitter handle, Ethan?
Oh yeah, at the Ethan Schmidt on Twitter.
And I guess you can follow me for my just retweets about the Penguins winning and being successful in life, unlike the Islanders, at Liesel_Lee.
And thanks for listening, and we hope you join us again.